So Vedran has experience both in Serbia and Canada and can give some really nice back-to-back info on how is like Serbia now, how is Toronto, what changed in these 2 years, and like thankfully we got Vedran now here for a couple of months and 2 months. So perfect. So if anybody needs any help, please ping Vedran or me. We're willing to share and care. So
sharing is caring.
Exactly. So after this intro, Vedran, I will say, like, can you tell us something about yourself? So some general info.
General info. I'm a human being just like yourself. I always like to start with that. I mean, generally, I was wondering even like why Philip invited me. If you know, I'm not trying to be fakely humble or anything like that. It's just basically, you know, I'm just grinding, as I like to say, in the basement, and my partners hate me when I say that because we actually do have nice offices. But it's, you know, it's just a grind, like the name of this organization that's covering the event. And basically, what I do, I've been in small businesses since like I started working, which is like approximately 10 years ago. I'm 29 now, and like literally since I started working on the first project, it was a small business. And so currently I'm in Toronto, as Philip said. Been there for like 2.5 years, like nothing too special. I'm still not Canadian. You know, exactly. That's a good joke. Thank you and all that kind of stuff. Canadians are actually really nice people and really kind and welcoming, which is quite helpful. So yeah, I've been part of this company or venture called Autoklose. It's auto and then K, like a close, like sales close, right? So and what it does basically, it's a cloud business that helps sales and marketing people to send better emails. So it has an automation, and then on top of that, we have a large database of B2B contacts, primarily in the United States. So in my job there, it would be false to say that I'm only a marketing guy. You know, I'm whatever it takes. One of the main stakeholders there at Autoklose, and you know, it's a struggle all the time. You know, I don't want to say that it's all shiny and rosy in a startup. It's a pretty much work hard all the time. And yeah, it's been 1.5 years since we started the venture. Currently at around 4,000 users, around 3,000 customers. So it's been pretty crazy and rewarding so far.
Okay, so we got to learn a bit about yourself, the current job maybe, but let's start from the beginnings. What did you actually, so where were you born? Like, in which city? I guess it's not Novi Sad, so.
Yeah, so I was born actually in Croatia, in Osijek, and then I moved with my mom and the family. We moved to Serbia during the circumstances that I think pretty much everyone's familiar with here. And we moved quite a bit around in the northern part of Serbia. And then we went to a very small town called Šid. I always like to say it's not SH, you know, and you know what's the word? It's actually Šid, SID. I'm a big promoter of my hometown, and yeah, so I've been pretty much. I grew up there. Worked my first jobs there. Basically,
What did you do there?
Funny enough, I was a football, like soccer, goalkeeper. Even though I'm not tall, but hence I'm not playing football anymore. So that's where I started actually, and we were earning some kind of money in the beginning, but you know, I had to do all kinds of work, basically taking. We were basically loading trains with stuff because it's a border city, right? So that's where I was kind of earning a few bucks fairly early on. And yeah, then after that, if I'm still on the question,
yeah, you are.
No pretty much. Then after that, I came to Novi Sad actually to study here, and to me that was like a village boy coming to a big city. That was like a big thing for me, and I thought it's all kind of Hollywood movies, academia, learning from cover to cover, but basically getting how would you translate that? Like I was getting like sevens, grade 7, not grade, but marks 7 and 8 basically, while other people were getting 9s and 10s, and I was like, oh my god, I'm definitely not smart. So it was a struggle the first year, and then I saw my friend in Subotic up north. He was like continuously traveling, meeting people from all over the world, and I was like, damn it, you know, I'm not jealous, but I am in a kind of way, you know, not a negative way, but in a way I can do that too. So I joined the organization fairly soon. I was leaving.
But just to interrupt you,
Yeah.
like what did you study exactly?
Oh, that's as you can conclude, studying was secondary in that situation, because I figured out that, you know, if you really want to do something, you actually have to get out and do it. So I studied Faculty of Economics, Subotica Novi Sad. It was interesting. Quite a lot of decisions there, but I figured out definitely what I want to do with my life, and I definitely figured out I want to be in entrepreneurship. I figured out that I'm a global citizen and I want to do.
Yeah. I'm just gonna slide in a question
Sure.
here, because
Sure.
talking education now, how do you take our education system? Okay, at that point, that was like some 10 years ago. Did it help you? Did it open your eyes? What's good? What's bad? What should you think to education in general? Like what should be done better? What's good here?
So it wouldn't be right to compare a Canadian system and a Serbian system or any kind of North American system. But I would definitely say that Serbia obviously has a lot of potential, a lot of good people working in academia, people who are struggling, and you know, we always kind of hear, sometimes we continuously talk about, you know, people who are not doing their job well enough. But I think we should talk more about people who are actually good examples and who are doing their job properly. So I'm okay with my university diploma. I'm okay with my faculty. And you know, if I compare, definitely a bit more kind of hands-on experience is necessary. You know, cooperation between the corporate world and the university, which is happening now at the FTN, Vedran, right? So yeah, that's something that I think definitely could be better. You know, university could be following a bit more kind of trends and what's working, what's not working, kind of being more flexible, more agile.
Like in business, what would that be currently? Like, for example, like studying management now, what would you take? Like
that's interesting. So I studied management, right? And so we're basically just I see some colleagues nodding. Yeah, you remember, like basically it's you know, learning from books, reading through books, and this is all cool, but like you don't have a day of experience actually running anything, doing anything, and that has to be fixed because it just doesn't make sense. So what I did, I you know, started working in a management company parallel with my university. I also started volunteering in that organization, and all of a sudden, like a few months later, I found myself in a situation of leading like 50 people. And now I was able to actually apply what I was learning and reading on the side in like specific examples or in that organization, right? And I was able to apply the case studies and everything and actually learn for myself, which is what is super important. Like someone can tell you what to do, someone can tell you which books to read, and that's all fun, but until you actually do it, I mean, it's not gonna stick. There's, you know, it's basically, I believe, how the learning works, right? So yeah, I mean, you know, more kind of, but I guess it comes down to whether a person is proactive or not, and that's also one part of the story, right? It has to be both ways. So on the students' end, like, be more proactive, grab every opportunity that you can. Like there are people in the audience like asking me, you know, how do I even start? You know, I don't know what I should do, what I should be doing. But then just start. Do what, you know, raise your hand to do something. Like literally whatever. There's a zero error or risk that you can take. Just do whatever, right? And learn from there. So
and then from there, that point, how did you actually enter technology into like the tech scene?
Yeah.
Like how did it happen?
So I went to Vietnam, so I got the opportunity to work for the organization, actually get paid and lead a sales force of like over 100 people, work with National Bank of Austria, like, you know, went from like Novi Sad to like meeting a governor of Austrian National Bank, like quite literally. And so, there in Austria, I figured out how big of a movement technology is. And currently, we have Pioneer Festival happening in Hofburg Palace in Vienna, and I was part of the first and the second Pioneers Festival. So I got to meet all the kind of entrepreneurs and organizations and whatnot. I collaborated with a lot of them, and when I came back to Serbia, I was like, I definitely want to join a startup company or tech company and learn as much as I can. And basically, take it from there. So that was my.
What's your first tech company there then?
So yeah, it was. So I was really like trying to get into a big name brand and whatnot. Obviously, without the experience, it was really hard. So I joined a very small company called Vibius. So what we were doing, a typical software outsourcing, and we were trying to kind of bridge the gap between the basically supply and demand. So we were in the middle. And yeah, I was there for a few months, doing pretty much everything and anything. And then after that, I joined Neopix and all the other great, wonderful ventures that I was a part of later.
Okay, so basically, Neopix is the first real company you kind of made some, I guess,
achievements.
Yeah,
literally, because my friend and I, we were kind of first hires, but it was a pretty young company. We were 6 people at a time. So it was actually a merger between Vibius and Neopix at the time, and I was a huge advocate for.
Just interrupt here because maybe not everybody knows Neopix.
Yeah.
Actually, I had a slight interaction there. That's how we met. Actually,
it's a beautiful, an amazing studio, an amazing bunch of people sitting down in niche, who are having their own little Google down south in Serbia. You can't imagine. Processes are amazing. People are doing some really crazy projects for other businesses, working directly with them, building products, etc., etc. Now they're a team of 30 people, a really good company. We're neopix.com is their website. So we did kind of perform a merger, and I tapped myself on the back because I was really the not the quiet, but the loudest possible advocate for the merger to happen, because I'm always if you're the owner of the company, if there's that, and something just makes sense, screw everything, get together, build a bigger thing than you are yourself or that small team in particular. And that's actually what happened with a lot of hurdles, ups and downs. We scaled the team. I was mostly doing sales, doing marketing, with a lot of failures and a lot of tests and a lot of time wasted, by the way. But the company at the end survived, and they're doing great.
You're the startup studio, basically.
Basically, a startup studio. Thank you for adding. I came here with a single goal, basically to tell as many stories as possible, where people can actually think with their own head and see if they can apply certain experiences or not, rather than talk about facts and figures or whatever. So yeah, it's a studio. It helps other companies to build their software products. And I would say a big pivot in the organization. So when I joined, we pivoted from basically renting people, right, to actually renting the whole studio and allowing people to, come with a certain idea, and then basically we build a product for you. That was the whole idea, and I believe the team is very successful at it even today. So.
Okay, great. So basically, after Neopix, you actually moved to Toronto. Is it that good? Some timeline there,
approximately, yeah. So at the time, I figured out that the learning curve is not where I wanted it to be. So I was, we went to a seaside retreat. We did accomplish a few things, obviously, and we went to kind of seaside retreat, and I figured out that this is a no-go for me anymore. And the reason is I really wanted to go. If you're doing something, I think you should go either build a peak for yourself, if you're that type of a person, or go where the peak is. Meaning, to me, I figure out that North America is a way to go because if I'm to do business, if I'm to do to figure out some capital for myself, because I'm not coming from wealth or wealthy family or whatever. So if I'm to build something for myself, I personally have to go there and figure it out. And so, I said, we agreed, with Neopix team, a transition period, so they helped me a lot. So I started my own kind of consulting to just bridge the gap. And funnily enough, a lot of companies from Novi Sad, from Belgrade, approached me to start working for them sometimes as a partner, sometimes as a biz dev guy. And I was like, fuck it, I don't want to do that again. But I can do consulting in the area, because I figure out that whatever you do in software development, it impacts a lot, like pretty much every function of the company. So whenever you talk about hiring, you have to talk about your portfolio. You have to talk about your financial model, how you charge, and all that kind of stuff, which is kind of quite logical. And I don't want to go into weeds of things, but the point is, if you select to be a high-end studio that builds like really kind of best of the best products, you have to hire for those A players. You have to, financial model has to be aligned. You can scale like from 20 to 50 people. So what do? You reject projects? No, you find partners, etc., etc. So all the good stuff. And yeah, then a friend came in, an ex-client. He was building this company called My Auto Shop, that's kind of connecting vehicle owners and repair shops. And he asked me to help him like with certain areas, aspects of the business. And I was like, yeah, sure, but I want to go to Toronto. So it wasn't like, I wanted to go to Silicon Valley here or there. It didn't matter to me that much. Canada sounds fun. New country sounds fun. Project is good. And funnily enough, my girlfriend, she was like, yeah, he's not going anywhere. It's not going to happen. Like 3 months later, I was actually with a ticket almost ready for Toronto. And basically I told her, I have to follow my gut and what I want to actually do. Because if I stay here and, I don't move, probably we won't stay together. But if I go there, we'll figure out a way, which basically happened like 3 months later, so 6 months ago, right? And yeah, my partner said, yeah, sure, no problems. And so he brought in his lawyer. We went on a Skype call, and the guy was like, yeah, it's like $15K, so $15,000 for his services. I might be able to do it, but there's a big risk. I was like, seriously? Like, with experience, with this, with that, with the will of employer, it's that hard. And so I figured out the way like a minute later by contacting friends from the organization. So officially we arranged an internship. And when I'm speaking, like you said, no BS. So I really want to tell people how that happened, so they really know, that it wasn't easy, but it wasn't too hard. You see a problem and you figure out a way. So I officially arranged the documents and all that. Then I was in Toronto like a few weeks later. And then it was...
You were studying basically in Canada?
Basically, yeah. But I did have a working visa, which enabled me then later to get other papers and all that kind of stuff. But then I just want to draw a line here. And again, people ask me like, oh my God, you're in Canada, it's all amazing there. It's like talking about people, whether they're good or bad. Like there are no good or bad people, obviously in certain extremes, but like generally there are no good or bad people, good or bad countries, etc. It's all kind of a gray area, and you can find everything everywhere, basically. And so there are some advantages to Canada, some advantages to Serbia, but we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, well, we can now, what's the greatest pro of Canada? Like you said, entrepreneurial spirit, like that year's firm work.
So winter is amazing.
Okay, yes it is, yeah.
No, I was just waiting for this joke. This is my only joke, okay?
It's a good joke, so.
Yeah. So starting with that, it's not that cold actually in Toronto. I think even if you look at the globe, it's actually southern from Belgrade. So, but yes, we do have a lot of wind and all that, almost like Chicago. But the point is, winter is long, but it's not too cold. Like it's almost like in Serbia when it gets bad, right? Like it's okay. But all joking aside, Toronto is fun. It's very, very multicultural. It's very, very welcoming. Startup scene is growing, is getting better. Specifically with the new administration in the U.S., a lot of people came to Canada. That's actually true. A lot of people came to Canada to build businesses, and obviously, you have the infrastructure, you have venture capital, you have money, you have a lot of private capital, which I love, because I think that's how things should be, with least governmental involvement. So that's really good. What I figure out in Canada, in Toronto in particular, so I will speak of Toronto, not necessarily the entire Canada, is so a lot of people are people are not as kind of, they don't hang out like you do here in Novi Sad, okay? So that's a big thing. And people who know me in the audience know that I'm like really like outgoing. Like first time I came there, like I LinkedIned everyone and like I met with thousands of people, like almost quite literally, went on coffee and all that. But I think people should do more to kind of really network and engage and share knowledge. And I think I would assume that in Novi Sad that's a bit better because people do actually hang out, they do share. And correct me if I'm wrong.
I think you're wrong.
Yeah, do you think I'm wrong?
No. Okay. People don't share enough by my standards here. Like people often don't share knowledge because they're afraid of sharing their.
Well, then I'd say it's quite similar to Toronto, believe it or not. So I would say that maybe warmer areas. This is my stupid conclusion. I don't even know if it's. So I'd say, in California, people do hang out all the time. They share ideas, things like in Austin, I know I have friends there. It's like, people do share a lot. Yeah. But then in Chicago, in Toronto specifically, you have a lot of lawyers, a lot of bankers, and a lot of big businesses. So it's a vibrant atmosphere amongst startup people. But I would prefer that we share more, that we spend more time in like smaller groups. Because there are lots of conferences and a lot of like meetups. So you have a meetup with like 300 people. And what can you do on that meetup? I mean, people go for drinks, they form small groups and chat, but I mean that's not sufficient enough in my opinion. So, I prefer that people spend more time and share more willingly with their their experiences with no BS, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the case in Novi Sad. We're also like looking to hire people here in Novi Sad and Belgrade, so definitely, obviously, that works for us. We're looking into like even building an office like long term. So Novi Sad, Belgrade, I mean Niš, Zrenjanin, like all these cities and like even more. I'd say it's just crazy if you go around. I have lots of friends like most of you here in all parts of the country, and when I go there, it's just amazing like what people are doing. Like you don't even know about them. So I just wish that people here in Serbia are a bit more, first off, English speaking, obviously, and to go and to work a bit more on their branding, personal brand, right? Like to travel more and go more outside to see that here it's not as bad. One thing, and the other thing that they can do so much from here. Real estate is super expensive in Toronto right now. It's just crazy if you're looking at it. So from living expenses to like from living expenses to renting offices, it's just crazy. If you look Vancouver, Toronto, Tokyo, Sydney, like the worst cities to live in terms of the real estate, right? So that's a big one. Like if you look from that standpoint, like it's good to build business here. And I know who was on the show like earlier talking about that.
Sinisha, maybe?
Sinisha,
yeah. Sinisha compares Silicon Valley and Novi Sad.
Exactly. So he built a business here. But the point is, you have to go like you have to work from your strengths and weaknesses. And now you're saying, yeah, you're now bullshitting here, but then you're living in Toronto. Yes, and I explain my reasons, like obviously looking for a capital, looking for a network, because at the end of the day, I'm a business guy, building business processes, working with people, etc. So for me, it might be okay to be there for some time. But then in the end, I mean, starting a business here, like people who started a business in Serbia, honestly, like are my heroes. Like, and I'm meeting with over 40 entrepreneurs here in Serbia, not because, they're famous, I'm famous, it doesn't really matter. But I approach them, I want to meet them, because like true heroes, like I'm serious. And I mean, I just didn't have the capacity to do it here, but if I did, I'd do it. So yeah.
Okay, so to move
long answer
forward, it's not a long answer, it's a perfectly reasonable one. You have a lot to explain here why you moved actually to Toronto, and like really you gave us pros and cons of Toronto versus Serbia and Novi Sad, how you take it.
Yeah.
So like, okay, so you came to work, so like I'd say your most prominent thing you did here was actually Neopix, doing sales there. So just to get a bit of like your experiences, like Neopix, that's an amazing company. Like as you said, like it's a really good startup studio. You have a really good amount of dollar signs behind the hourly rate, and like I'd say that's not a like Eastern European hourly rate definitely, but so something like tell us a bit more there, because I think
Right.
you didn't praise yourself enough, as you were like your first hire, basically doing sales,
Yeah.
made you responsible for getting clients in.
So I
Raising.
think generally of the studio itself, it's just again, you always have options, obviously, and I'll just go a step behind, like before I jump into Neopix. Like I remember when we were almost graduates at the university, we got the option to stay 3 years, which was the contract, so to study for 3 years, or to study for like 4 years to kind of adopt this new concept. And so I remember my colleague and Milena and I, we were standing in the line, and then everyone was trying to get to be on a 4+1 type of a model years at the university. I was like, why? And they're like, oh man, good for you, you're staying at the 3 years and whatnot. I'm like, who's forcing you to go 4+1? Ah man, I don't know, like parents, friends, everyone is doing it, like, I'm like, well, I don't understand, like it doesn't make sense. Anyhow, long story short, most of them stayed at the university for years, and B option, like a harder option, like which at the end it wasn't, is basically to just finish that school as soon as possible, get outside of the market, get dirty, start kind of learning by doing and all that kind of stuff. So the same thing, the same reasoning applied to Neopix, and the guys behind it were just like amazing. They were continuously thinking outside of the box and continuously thinking real hard, like not let's do this, let's do that, but actually sitting there and drawing and trying to understand the real issue, the real problems. So hence they did things differently. So it was really important that people who are talking to customers, to stakeholders, that their English is good. It was really important that we are design driven, and that was one of our kind of strengths. So we really focused on. I actually figured out at the end, like by mapping the business model, that design is what sells, and code is what actually can earn you money. So we focused real hard on design that is like really like North American. And people really appreciated that. It was so easy, not easy, but like pretty much easy to get a word of mouth, to get a recommendation, to really get a project. And most of the time it was like you get a project from design and portfolio and all that, so you do a design and then you take over the code as well, development. And so yeah, that was one of the strategies. The other strategy that was kind of really important, if I'm again touch base on the question, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing that was really good is that we kind of really believed in the community, and we worked with different partners down in Niš, in Belgrade. So we're looking for great, amazing studios. So instead of just hiring, just let's hire as many people as we can for this project, and then we can fire them later if we don't have work for them. Like, it's not that other studios think like that. It's not that simple. But in a nutshell, it comes down to that. So we're actually, we deeply cared about people. Like, they had the best Macs, the best office to work in. And, time will tell if this is a valid business decision or not, because that happened like 2 years ago. But at the end of the day, I believe it is, because, doing the best you can for your people, like, obviously then they'll take care of the business. And that's a kind of known adage, like, in the business world. So
great day there.
Easy,
So
yeah.
I'm gonna skip line a bit ahead. So let's switch to, okay, you landed your first job in Canada.
Yeah.
How did you actually meet the Autoklose core team, or how did you meet the founder, the CEO?
Right. So the partner from my auto shop was also an investor and partner in another business called Autoklose. And I had a really tough period between Canada because I came back to Serbia and the business didn't do well. So I had some health issues with my back and then my hip, and it was just crazy. And perfectly healthy person, like always in sports, and I'm like, is this really kind of happening to me? Like, they just told me, hey, you have a tumor. I'm like, what? Like, is that even possible? And then obviously you flip things around, you figure out things, and you move from there. Basically, you just try to solve another problem. You don't put a lot of attention to it in a sense, like emotions and all that, but you actually try and solve a problem, like a good entrepreneur would do. And so I came back to Serbia. That business is still doing great right now. Like they're growing. They managed to pick it up. where we left. But it was hard. I was basically the only person working like full time on a project, managing support, managing marketing, managing technology, and all that kind of stuff.
Shop, yeah.
That's my little shop, exactly. So that was like crazy. And so I took a break for like 2 months, and then my girlfriend, she got a job in London, UK, with offices in Toronto, and we just decided, fuck it, let's just go back to Toronto. Like, even though I was, I didn't have a job at the moment, because I figured out I'll do consulting, I'll do whatever, right? I'll build something on my own, try and sell it. And then, so I was meeting with Sean Finder, who is the CEO and founder of Autoklose. We did meet on a lot of occasions, mutually sharing ideas, and he's like really like what you would expect from a very like a typical New Yorkish type of a guy, like speaking like really fast, like bouncing off ideas just like this, not attaching himself like personally to the ideas. And so it was really cool to hang out with him. And then at the end, he figured out like the initial traction at Autoklose, like 50 to 100 initial customers, and they offered me a gig, and I was like, why not? I got the early options and all that. So ever since then, with a lot of ups and downs and a lot of hustle, the company, as I said, is like over 4,000 users and doing quite well.
Yeah. So actually, you told me some funny story about Sean, isn't it? Like,
the
tennis. He was almost a tennis player.
So interesting thing about Sean. So he was a pro tennis player in his early age, and so brothers, how do you say, brothers Cottage. That took their kids to his playing field, basically for him to coach them, right, to how to play tennis. So that was really funny. So he got to know Serbia.
The cottage
grandson,
something like that.
So that's a funny story, because that's actually when he got to know like Serbia and all what was happening over here. And
so Sean actually had some contact with Serbia before.
Yeah, which is quite interesting. I
maybe not the best contact, to be honest, but some contact.
I'll skip that, but definitely he did have a contact with Serbia, and he traveled here and all that. But that's really important. Like, I mean, even if you're looking for North American clients or Australian clients or whatever, don't be like, that's one of the strategies that really worked for us. Don't be lazy. Like, sit on a plane. Like, go meet them there. Like, it's amazing. Like, bring them over here. Like, it's it helps definitely. And if you're looking for like early traction in North America, it's really good. I mean, I don't even know how do you find that out, but like someone who is like really outgoing, who's traveling, who's globally minded, like they'll buy a product for sure. Like, they won't be thinking like, oh, they're somewhere in Southeastern Europe or they're somewhere in Ukraine or whatever in Europe, right? Because North Americans do have some sort of a kind of strange connotation, like related to Europe, that we're slow, we're this, we're that, and some of it might even be true. But then obviously, if you focus only on the weaknesses, you're not seeing the other side, right?
Okay, so let's fast track here. Autoklose, like, how does your day look? Is it you do like from sales to marketing, like?
Yeah. So again, you do whatever it takes, right? So I'm really grateful to have Natasha. She's sitting here. She's my marketing and content manager. So she helps a lot. We have my girlfriend. She helps a lot with design. And then we have I have a web developer. So there are lots of people involved in the success of marketing at Autoklose, and in general with Autoklose. But what I do, everything from demand gen to like branding to figuring out who would be the next partner to work with, whether on technology, on the marketing end. As I said, like multiple times here, like we're hiring, we're looking for like 6 people from all the way from sales development, SDRs, to account executives, to customer success, to PR and whatnot. So that people would be a part of my team. And so day to day, sometimes I build landing pages, sometimes I edit the code, sometimes I do demos, sometimes I'm on the intercom doing customer support, sometimes I'm like developing strategy with Sean and the rest of the kind of decision makers and whatnot. So it's a startup world, and it sounds super fancy and cool nowadays, but it's a lot of struggle.
What's the next plan to Autoklose? Any like what you're aiming for, like?
Right. So yeah, we're looking to what we figured out in our industry. As I said, our product is related to kind of sales and marketing people. We help sales and marketing people sell better by email and by providing all the tools that they need. And so my goal personally, like the short-term goal, is to find someone who can actually help our customers be more successful generally in sales and business. And then obviously Autoklose will fit in because we're almost kind of a necessary tool in their toolkit. So that's like a short-term thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're definitely looking to work and expand more on the product end, to hire more developers and product forward kind of thinking people who would enhance the product. And yeah, obviously like sales is a big thing. We're still in the early stage, like year and a half in the business. Business is bootstrapped or self-funded. So yeah, that's pretty much the next step.
Okay, so I think we got a pretty nice feeling about Autoklose. I'm going to leave for the Q&A later on. So we're going to do the finishing section, the one that I like the most basically. It's about the local opportunities in Novi Sad as an ecosystem. So like after some 2 years in Toronto, how do you look at Novi Sad now as a technology ecosystem?
So it's hard to say virtually because I'm talking to a lot of people and we do chat almost on a daily basis. I think it's doing pretty well. I just heard from you that government and then who knows, European partners are actually building
the Science Technology Center.
Okay, park, which is I believe it's amazing. Sometimes, so I don't know if I'm switching away from the question. Just bring it back. So I just think that at the end of the day. People just need to work harder. Some people have to work harder, the other people have to work smarter, and then just bring it all together. I just think in Canada, in Toronto specifically, like people just like there's no leisure time, and it's incorrect to say that. Okay, so there is a leisure time, but it's like very limiting and very it's very kind of focused. And sometimes even myself, obviously when I'm here, it might not be perfect, but like people do. We hang out a lot. We do have a lot of talks and all that. And I frankly believe I spent some time in Germany, Austria. I frankly believe that sometimes we think too much, we talk too much here in Europe, and long term that might be better. I don't know, but I would prefer that people do more and test more, and specifically by working like shoulder to shoulder with Sean and a lot of other entrepreneurs in Toronto. And in New York, in Austin, I figured out that people are just like, let's do it. Let's buy that, let's install that, let's do it, let's try it. If it's not working, okay, it's not working, and stuff like that. When I talk, like I'll be giving a talk on sales and marketing specifically in B2B sales, SaaS industry up to 1 million. So that you're all invited to. It's going to be on the 29th of May in Start in Belgrade. So I'm going to be specifically talking about some tactics, and I already know the questions there. What about this law? What about that? What about, and all valid questions, but like, try it, test it, see it for yourself, right? And that's, I don't know. I don't want to, anticipate things in advance, but that's basically what I feel about. So I feel that people have to, hustle more, have to like, put work into things rather than talk.
Like any positive sides to that? Like working for Novi Sad, like.
Yeah, that's not negative necessarily. As I said, like long term, who knows? That's not negative. And I'm not trying to be political correct, okay? Just for the record, I'm just trying to. This is a feedback, right? And so the good thing, as I said, it's low cost for most things. An amazing talent. It's just amazing, and we still don't have big companies like Google, like Facebook, like HP, like Bulgaria has, and all that. So I think we still do have a lot of talent. Inside like kind of small and medium-sized businesses, and I think that's a big one. And I just hope that people are more proactive and more like kind of I want to try this. Okay, I'm done with this. I want to try that, because I felt in my personal story that worked a lot, because I somehow had that like sixth sense. When my learning curve is going down, it just doesn't make sense to stay where I am and just move forward, like do something else. Move to another continent, do something else. And I, like, by the way, like one of your questions, like when we discussed it earlier, was do you have like entrepreneurial spirit in your family and this? I mean, to some extent, where you literally had to save your own life and run from a country to another country, start all over and all that. But not a single person from my family that I know built a company or anything like that. So
yeah, actually a good parallel, because Sasha, our last guest, said basically the same thing, because her father immigrated from Serbia to San Francisco in the early 60s, and basically she said the same thing, like the people that actually emigrate in our country are the greatest entrepreneurs, because actually her daddy didn't even know the language, so that's something you have to survive basically.
Yeah, and yeah, I just wish that people are a bit more, like this doesn't work, I want to do that. This, I want to move to another country, I want to move to this, and it's always like, oh, it's way better there, it's way better here. Like, just don't make judgments. Just go, try it for yourself, see it for yourself. Don't comment. Don't be like, don't, talk to your friends how it is. Don't make judgments, but just do things. Like, test things for yourself, try another thing, and like that, And then with all those like different experiences, some other things will pop up. So I also want to put an emphasis on. 2 years ago, I raised my hand that I want to organize Serbian entrepreneurs in Toronto, okay? And I didn't hear from anyone, pretty much. And then a friend told me, Nemanja Cerovac, hi to him if he's listening. He was like, okay, dude, it's an invite-only kind of group, and so I'll recommend you. And so now we're running Serbian Entrepreneurs Toronto chapter. I'll organize it. I don't even know how I got there. Again, I did a lot of things. At some I was successful, at some I wasn't. But these people there, are really like we discussed, right? Like some people with a really good portfolio. However, you have to know your strengths. When I came to Toronto, I met with the most amazing people there. I wanted to organize an event such like that. And I did it. And so now I'm already kind of helping a few startups from Belgrade to come to Toronto to pitch to different investors, because I do know some investors there, I do know people there, I know the community, and boom, you make a link. So what I want to say is like, try different things, and then things will believe, like I think Steve Jobs said that, like, have the gut to kind of follow your heart, and you can't figure things out too far in advance, but you can only connect the dots by looking backwards,
you
right?
can connect the dots by looking backwards.
Exactly. So
that's it.
Don't take yourself too serious. Go outside, do things, and connect the dots. I mean,
okay. So one tricky question now.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do one final, because then we're going to switch to Q&A to the audience asking questions. Would you talk to anybody from Toronto, to a Canadian employee in Toronto? Okay, anybody in Toronto, basically, not just a Canadian, to move to Novi Sad?
Not necessarily to Novi Sad. I didn't say to Novi Sad,
Yeah,
but I did
okay,
already.
so
I did invite a lot of
Why?
people.
Like that's what's to move here?
Like I said, like it's an amazing talent, amazing community. I really believe that it is an amazing community. And thirdly, as I said, like cost is quite low, so you can really come down, have a good life. That's, in my opinion, really important. Have a really good life, like quality of life, like good food, amazing people, English-speaking area quite a bit. I don't know. Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I'm Canadian and I've been here like 5 days now.
Amazing.
So are you moving here after 5 days, or do we have to get 2 or 3 more?
I'm here for somewhere between 3 months and forever. It just depends on what happens.
Perfect. We're gonna try to get it to forever.
So can I forward that question to you?
Yeah.
So what do you think? What do you say?
So what brought me here actually is my graphic designer and 3D video editor. He does some work. He went to university in Novi Sad. He said that the quality of the people here, the life just in general, and you can see, you walk down the street, there's people having, there's cafes everywhere, and you have like coffee at noon, and like it's the overall cost of life actually, and if you're gonna grow a team, the cost of team acquisition and your ability to scale your team is a lot more powerful here than it is in somewhere like even Colombia. I lived in Colombia for 2 years, and it's the quality of the people compared to the price is a hell of a lot higher here.
So a super answer to this question. Like,
can you repeat just for a second on camera?
Think not.
Think not.
Think not.
Sorry, what's your name?
Mark.
Mark. So Mark is from Canada.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark.
Because I don't think the audience on YouTube heard him.
Unfortunately,
so I just
want
want to like whatever. there are good bars, good coffee places. Cost is low, which is quite important for businesses, and it's almost kind of easier to build a team here and to scale the team. Is that what? Yeah. So these are the main. But as I said, like I somehow want to avoid that fact that it's cheaper, and don't think cheaper like people are hourly rates are lower here. Fair, but that's growing. Like if you look at the companies, it's just growing. When people are trying to sell us, I'm just giving too many stories, but I know. But if you don't understand, just interrupt me. So there are lots of companies here who are like thinking that their cost in Serbia is very low, when actually it's their hourly rates are quite the same, almost like in Toronto. So that's changing.
You said that to me actually when we were talking about like hourly rates.
Like,
you said, oh my god, that's Toronto price.
Yeah.
If you bring value, I guess.
But then what I want to say is like in business, it comes down to a cost, but there's a rent, cost of life. I mean, I know that a lot of people are not happy here with like public health and all that. Let me tell you, in Canada, I almost want to say we have machines, like better machines probably, again, good talent, good doctors and all that, but it's almost quite the same. It's driven by pharmaceuticals. It's the same as here. It's not very different. And you get a paid health insurance by the government. You actually pay for it, obviously, but it's provided by the government, similar like in Serbia. But you can always get a private health insurance here if that's a big hustle for you. So all in all, like you mentioned it all. I mean, these are the main points.
Yeah, and like you said, it's value, right? I mean, you can go to. I'm looking at the idea of scaling a call center here.
Mm-hmm.
But like compared to the price per hour of employees here and the quality, the Philippines isn't what it used to be. Right?
Okay.
And the Philippines has gone up in price, and they have not gone up in quality, and
right.
It's just like it's an oversaturated market. And you guys have great English from people that I've spoken to. I think there's a lot of opportunity here.
Hey, thanks for nice words. What else to say? So on Mark's closure here, we're gonna go to the Q&A. So guys, I hope you have questions for Vedran. So let's start here.
No, it's fine.
No, it's not. So anybody has any question? Perfect. Let's start.
From your experience, what makes a good startup?
What makes a good startup? I almost think it's an easy answer, and it's people.
Goals, ideas, persistence.
Exactly, it comes down to people. I mean, even like that's something I want to talk about in Belgrade. You always get for business, sales, and marketing. You always get like hate words, primarily from amazing engineers and developers, and but in most cases, it's not the technology that's driving the business. It's actually the logic of the entire business. Not business development. Don't think in terms of business development as sales and marketing and trying to sell you the product or the service. It's actually the logic of how the business works, and that logic can be created by a developer, designer, painter, sales guy. It doesn't really matter. So to me, it comes down to people, and Does that answer your question?
Do you have any others?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
I got a question. So Hotmail, for example, one of the ways that they grew their company was at the bottom of every Hotmail it said "send from Hotmail," right?
Yeah.
And it was like one of the classic growth hacks.
Yeah.
What's something that you guys have done in Autoklose as a growth hack that has shown some effective, month-over-month growth for you?
Right. So I'd say the most prominent one I can think of is, because as you know, it's day to day, hour to hour. It's tough, right? And I'm not saying that we did reach the success of any Hotmail or Gmail or
Not yet.
Exactly, not yet. Exactly, I appreciate it. So what we did, we did a lot of things that are this one scale things, in the sense that we really focused on a personalized relationship. We really focused on people. We really focused on like one-to-one interactions and celebrating people who actually do get a value from our product, almost kind of looking for our product market fit. So it's not necessarily a hack, but in a world where everything is automated, even our product is helping you with automation. We actually focused more on building as like, for instance, if our software is sending personalized emails, okay, And so what we tried doing, instead of writing like long messages and a bunch of follow-ups, just a few one-liners to engage people, to get people to reply. So again, this is not super scalable, but we received a lot of traction from that. Then again, we did work with a lot of marketplaces.
So hold on that point. So your one-liners got more interaction than your typical emails.
Of course.
So basically, doing things that don't scale.
Doing things that don't scale, almost kind of. But let me tell you, on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we did, we looked up for it's almost kind of a hack. So we looked up for sales, regional sales managers, and we were like, hey Mark, are you managing like East or West Coast or something like that? And most of the people, not most, but like a certain percentage would be like, hey, I can sense a sales pitch coming in, okay? But a lot of people are like, I manage West Coast. Why? And you get into a conversation. Compared to you accept someone's request on LinkedIn and then they throw you like within a second, like automation is fine. It's even fine to tell people that it's an automation. But you have to do it with a certain like decency and
But like for example, where that's at, this is almost where you can take advantage of human capital being at a lower cost and so on, like that, because you can scale that up a lot larger.
For instance,
hit a lot wider audience.
For instance,
because you gotta pay someone like $100,000 in Toronto to do that.
That's quite true. That's quite true. Yeah. Exactly. So that's one thing, and as I said, like there is not a grand idea or thing that we applied and wow, we're might not be even here, like be somewhere in the meeting probably, but like those type of things, because if you think of marketing and sales, if you're a pioneer, you're doing good. But then people start to copy that, and then they implement that, and then at the end it's a noise. So you have to reverse it back to kind of almost its beginnings and then work from there. So it comes down to that, yeah. Appreciate that. Thanks, Mark.
So any other questions? Come on, guys. I know there are.
You can ask me a question. Can I ask you a question?
Me? Okay, that's a first, but
I can ask you like 20 questions.
we can talk after, no worries. But if you like, shoot.
What type of people here do you think are in the greatest demand, and what type of people here in Novi Sad do you think have the greatest supply?
Interesting.
The highest demand?
Yeah, who are in highest demand right now? If someone wanted to figure out a path for themselves to take, starting from zero.
So, if you probably ask somebody that's in technology, they would say software developers and like the bleeding edge developers, like doing functional like things like Rust, Haskell, things like that actually pay $50+, $60+ online. So I would say international like that. But in Novi Sad currently, we're actually missing a lot of product people. So anybody that has anything to do with product development in the sense like sales, business, marketing, product management, roles like that. Basically, companies here are really struggling to find people that have knowledge of customer success, product management, project management. That's really project management, not just like making tasks in Jira, because that's not PM. So that's something that's really in demand here for the companies in Novi Sad. So actually we're, on my stance, missing a lot of people to make companies that are full circle products, so full solution basically, not only to rent people out, have somebody work, like have a team of 5 people work for another company and have a PM somewhere in New York, Munich, Berlin or something like that, but like really develop a product here. So that's, I have a friend from Greece that's actually having a company here. He's into business development, and he said like a really great comparison. You're going to have a building of 10 floors in somewhere like Athens. You're going to have the first floor sales, second floor pre-sales, accounts. Like you're going to basically have 80 people doing sales in a tech company, and you're going to have 10 people in the board, you're going to have 5 people as VPs, and you're going to have 5 developers in the basement coding. So that's a typical tech company in Athens, but in Serbia you're going to have 100 people, 99 people are going to be developers, and you're going to have one guy that's also a developer but does business development. So that's the typical.
So is there an opportunity for business development incubation here?
Awesome. That would be awesome. Actually, we're trying to make a small group to actually bring people from outside to Novi Sad to actually do that, because we're lacking that experience. We don't know how to make a good product from a non-technical side. So personally working in startups and having my startup studio,
B2C or like
B2B, B2C, anything. That's what we lack most. Like working, as I said, like I come from a perspective of working for startups and having my own startup studio. We're struggling to be like a full solution partner to companies from San Francisco and New York. We're doing some stuff. We're having investors like Ben Horowitz in one of our startups, and so it's something good. Yeah, you have a call and you have somebody on the other line that's near Ben, and you're like, how did this came to be?
Right.
But we're so new into it, we're only dipping our fingers in it. So we have great technical talent, but we don't have that product talent. So that's only developing, and that's like so early stage here I think that's lacking the most.
Yeah, but I'd argue that it's a worldwide. It's not only here. It's like with an exception to biz dev people and sales people and whatnot. But other than that, like product, real kind of product people, like with the experience and all that, are really like in high demand. And then
Well, also, sorry to interrupt here, but one parallel, actually, Sinisha that we mentioned, the founder of Hunch, a good friend of ours. He actually came from States, from Orange County, with his like 25, 27, something like that, to live in Belgrade. And he said basically he sees Novi Sad as an opportunity similar to Silicon Valley in the 80s, because currently you have a really timid city of 300, 400 plus people, however you call it. It's really packed with engineers, quality people. Really, it's quiet, so you don't have all the shining lights outside. You have a relaxing atmosphere, and basically people feel comfortable here. And the cost of living is low, so you have a really good future in a sense that it's developing. There are a lot of startups here, where like the startup culture began again in early 2010 here. It's 2019, we're gonna be in a decade here. We're maturing, we're still in the beginnings, but I think it's a good path, long run. It's gonna be.
Unicorn that will come out of Novi Sad?
Sorry?
You think there's a unicorn that will come out of Novi Sad?
Hope. Well,
Is there anyone on path?
Well.
Well, I've heard that a lot of people, that's interesting, a lot of people are scared to even share their success for various reasons that I won't get into. But a lot of people I heard sold their companies like, 5 to 10 million, for valuation. Sorry? $100 million. So
$100 million company came out of Novi Sad?
yeah.
Wow.
So that's what I'm saying. And then, so you see, that's where the state shouldn't be just giving money. Like, I think people are asking for, favor that they don't actually want. So state money, even in Canada, I argue, like, with my, experience that, it's not good.
No, you want smart money, you don't want state money.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, it's not healthy, because like you get a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of administration, and you don't get as much freedom, which makes sense, right? It's people's money, right? But then we just need more kind of bold people and bold moves, where people are just willing to bounce off, like sell companies and start another venture, or like fund some other team, join another team, like more activity is what I'm saying, and that's like moving forward from your kind of question. But generally I think we just lack like kind of more private capital here, and people actually coming back. But egg or chicken,
It's a good path.
It's a
I think
dichotomy that
But I'd say not to, like, we're on a time limit, not to go too far. We can actually chat later, no worries, like grab beers. One more question? Yeah.
You were talking about pros of having a business here in Serbia.
Yeah.
And since the company is thinking about opening certain offices in certain towns here in Serbia, my question is, what's your thoughts of first steps of starting a business here in Serbia with foreign capital? What's your thoughts on the Serbian laws, paperwork, Is it easy? Is it strange? Is it difficult?
That's a very good question. So I know that my partners who are responsible for that actually do have people who are quite successful in that area here, accountants, lawyers, and like I think most of them are from Belgrade. And so they will probably deal with it. But so our first initial stage is to do a remote kind of office. We don't even want to build an office like in the first 6 months or a year. We want to see how basically that's going to work. So we will have people on contracts, like having their own agencies and companies, basically working for themselves as entrepreneurs, right? I don't know how, like, what's the direct translation to English, doesn't even matter. And then after that, we'll be looking into actually doing, moving a portion of to the office here, obviously. But how we're going to do it, we'll let professionals deal with it. I literally, I wouldn't say that I have more than that, like, on the topic. So phase by phase, right?
I can actually say about that because we actually moved the company from San Francisco to Novi Sad.
Yeah.
Not that difficult, in all honesty. It's not this complicated as people think.
Exactly. Yeah. That's also my kind of perception that people sometimes things could be better. Okay. So I remember I was at Service Ontario the other day, like a few weeks ago, and I was like, wow, everything works well. And then people are like, oh my God, I'm waiting for an hour and like 20 minutes. Put me in the line, like you promised an hour and I'm waiting for an hour and 20 minutes, stuff like that, right? And I'm like, oh my God, you are ungrateful, right? But then, some things are good, some things are not, can be improved and all that. For you as an entrepreneur, like a friend also told me the same thing when we were like fighting over, I was about to start another startup in Toronto, and then, I raised a few problems, like without say my local mentality, like Serbian mentality. I was like, dude, like we're entrepreneurs, we're gonna solve the problem. Like, if this happens, and he listed out like 15 solutions. So same thing here, that shouldn't stop you, prevent you. If other main factors are here, such as cost. Cost is a big factor. Like it can make or break the business, especially if you're bootstrapped, right? So, but yeah, we actually do have a way smarter person for the administrative part, and yeah.
Okay, so we're going to allow for one more question if there is one. We're on our limit of the time. The limit is time, something like that. So anyone? Mark, you're forbidden, actually. Perfect.
How do you spend your free time in Toronto?
Yeah, that's a good one. So I mostly my girlfriend, she's organizing the events outside of work hours, but I do play guitar, like an amateur pretty much, but I do enjoy it. So do sometimes write songs. Sometimes I do actually work. I know it's boring, but I do actually work with other startups on their kind of problems and businesses. But we sorry.
God, you're boring.
Exactly. But we do actually spend a lot of time in nature because Canada has, it's just like plenty of
Really?
yeah. Sometimes, once a month, maybe. Yeah, so we live actually really downtown, and it's just a lot of glass and concrete for my personal taste. But we do grab a car and go outside of the city. That's and also, like, again, a lot of cultures. Food is amazing. So spend some time in restaurants when we can.
Sounds fun. Sounds fun.
That sounds fun. Yeah.
Like to the better person you're organizing, basically.
Exactly. To my better health. Yeah.
Yeah.
Knows what I'm talking about.
I'm gonna just finish with a couple of words here. So basically, don't leave. We start with half hour early, so just for people to grab some drinks and talk. We're gonna have some beers and pancakes after this, so like crepes. So yeah. Well, maybe not the best combination, but anywho, it's free food. Yeah. So please stay and please mingle a bit. Thank you all for coming. I know Novi Sad is not really famous for people walking in the rain, and thank you all for making the effort for coming to us to Vedran. And I would say, like, please a big applause to Vedran because, like, amazing dude.
Actually, thank you for organizing the whole thing. Currently, I have to. Like the whole venture, like Startup Grind, is amazing, but it wouldn't happen without this guy here. And I know he's putting a lot of effort and energy and emotions into it. And basically, in the community, he really believes in Novi Sad and people here. And so it's just amazing to have him. And I'm grateful we're friends.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, wrong question.
Yes.
Okay.
Where's the bathroom?
Bathroom is, you go there and right and to the left. I think it's
Fair.
water closet. Anywho, guys, that's that. So until next time, hope to see
Thanks
some
for
new
coming.
faces next time, some old faces hopefully. Hope you enjoyed it. Please mingle, please grab a beer, it's cold. And there's now new pancakes, so enjoy.
Amazing. Thanks.